amazing how 90 minutes can change the course of humanity. Last night, history changed as Suez's two men walked onto a stage.
Welcome, the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you?
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Biden didn't look like a guy who'd been resting at Camp David, pounding lasagna for a week. And 13 minutes in, the debate was officially over.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
Biden did the one thing he couldn't afford to do. And he did it at the start of the debate, when everyone was watching. Democrats across the country began to panic. Biden sounded hoarse, looked pale and exhausted, was babbling nonsense. And it got worse.
I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Biden staring, slack-jawed and confused while Trump pounded his points across was one thing. But when Trump paused, was disciplined, when his mic was muted, that's hard to beat. Trump didn't flinch an inch when Biden slandered him with hoaxes. But the minute he brought up his measurements, golf game and sex life, it was a different story.
You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway.
I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it.
Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. That he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
We pulled the tape, and with that swing, there's no way he's a 6 handicap. As Gutfeld said, maybe Biden thought he was being asked how many handicaps he has. 6. I have 6. After the longest drive debate, both called each other for the next 20 minutes. The worst president in history. Watch.
His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country.
Worst president in history. 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief.
The idea that we're talking about worst presidents, I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. Presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted. They said he was the worst in all of American history.
He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country.
We don't need historians to tell us who's the worst. We were around for both. And Trump was dialed in on creating that contrast, anchoring his entire presentation on the border.
We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. People are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate.
Trump constantly pivoted back to voters' top issues, the economy and illegal immigration. The former president even fought to a draw on abortion and January 6th. Those are the two pillars of the Biden campaign. And Biden never scored. He couldn't even leave the debate stage without help from a doctor. Jill escorting him down a 6-inch step like they were descending Mount Kilimanjaro. It was such a catastrophic performance. The emotion I felt was pity. After he choked at minute 13, it was like watching an old journeyman fighter in there with a champ, getting outclassed and peppered with jabs and hooks, and the corner guy asking, "You still want to go back out there?" The faces of Americans around the country watching the debate told the whole story. It was over when he stepped into the ring. During the debate, the Biden campaign leaked to the media that Biden had a cold. I've never had a cold that bad. When the debate was over, the campaign fed Kamala to the wolves.
He was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when you debated him. You must, I mean, that's certainly true, is it not?
I got the point that you're making about a 1.5-hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But
whether
is that
it be
the man who we saw on the stage tonight? Is that the person you see in meetings every day?
I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
When Anderson Cooper's interrogating Kamala like a Republican, you know it's a calamity. Kamala couldn't spin it, and the Democrats had to leave the spin room early. Their job is literally to spin, and Joe was so bad they couldn't do it. They just left. The only one left willing to spin was the First Lady.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie!
That's how my wife talks to Jesse Jr. when he says his ABCs. Little Joe, you did so well. You want a waffle? Yeah. Jill took Joe to a Waffle House as a reward for being a good little debater. You tried your best. That's all that counts.
Mr. President, how did you perform tonight?
I think we did well.
Do you have any concerns, Democrats are concerned that you should talk out that you're not fit for the job, your voice, your performance tonight? Do you have any concerns about your performance?
No, it's hard to debate a liar. New York Times pointed out he lied 26 times. Big lies.
You see the woman in line standing at the Waffle House at midnight? President walks in. She doesn't even really turn around. She's like, "What? Who's that?" No one should have been shocked that Biden flopped. If you've been paying attention, Biden's been like this for 4 years. He was like this before the last election. They've just kept him hidden. And now he's been exposed without his little training wheels to 50 million people. They can't cover for him. Today, he looked like he had a concussion.
I loved him from the start. I saw in him then the same character that I see in him today. And even though he has faced unimaginable tragedies, his optimism is undaunted.
All day, Democrats have been openly discussing replacing him at the convention. We'll have more on that later. But it's not really about Joe Biden or Trump. It's about whatever's standing in the way of a progressive takeover of America. Last night, the left suffered a massive car wreck. They'll get another card, but they have to figure out what to do with the driver. In 90 minutes, their 8-year dream of open borders, DEI, deficit spending was shattered. But Biden wasn't the only loser last night. It was the media, who have been lying and hiding him, and the administrative state, who inserted Biden into the White House 4 years ago, thanks to COVID and hoaxes, and today are watching aghast their puppet collapse. As Donald Trump ricochets back into the Oval Office, promising to close borders, end wars, and seek revenge. And by revenge, of course, we mean success. The only option Biden has left is prison.
He's got more trials. He's got more trials coming up. Time for that.
You hear that? There's still time to lock him up. Judge Merchan sentences the former president on July the 11th. And apparently Biden's crowd today, did they even see the debate?
4 years, 4 more years.
4 more years? Biden can't make it 4 more months. Is Dr. Jill going to keep the nuclear football in her purse? And our enemies know that Trump's coming back by January 2025, so they'll be making moves. It could get pretty dangerous. It already is. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.